Okay, so let's go ahead and start by putting everything that you see underneath the radical into the calculator, and then we're going to take the square root of that. So in my numerator, I have 1 plus 4/5, which need to go in parentheses. I'm going to hit enter right now because that's everything in my numerator, and now I'm going to divide by 2. Enter. So everything that's underneath the radical is equal to 0.9. Then I'm going to take the square root, enter, and we get that the cosine of 1/2 theta is equal to about 0.9486. Now, there is a question on the test where instead of saying express your answer in decimal form, it says express it in the simplest radical form. And in that case, we can't really do this whole put everything into our calculator thing and see what happens. In that case, we have to be a little bit more careful. I want to point your attention to right here. When we figured out what everything underneath the radical was equal to, it was equal to 0.9. So that's the square root of 0.9. Think about how we rewrote the 0.6 up here. We wrote that as 6/10, and we can do the exact same thing down here by doing positive or negative 9/10, and that's kind of like an easier way to do questions like this on the test. If she wants it in simplest radical form, you know, maybe you could figure out what the decimal is and then rewrite it as a fraction, or maybe you want to go through originally and figure out what 1 plus 4/5 is equal to, which I think that is like 9/5, and then divide by 2, figure out what that is. The choice is up to you, but I do know that once you get to this point, to take the square root of 9/10, what she would want you to do was write that as square root of 9 divided by the square root of 10. Square root of 9 turns into 3 over the square root of 10, which you can't leave a radical sign in the denominator. So you're going to have to rationalize the denominator by multiplying by radical 10 over radical 10. And your final answer would be 3 radical 10 over 10. Which, if you did the math out, is equal to that decimal. But this is in simplest radical form. And what I mean by simplest radical form, if, for example, that was 4 radical 10 over 10, you have to simplify it all the way and write this as 2 radical 10 over 5. Okay, so I'm warning you right now that there's a question like this on the test where you have to write things out in simplest radical form, just to be aware of that fact. Okay? Oops. And then this is homework number 90, 429 to 430. You know what? Instead of doing this homework assignment, the next one in your packet for homework number 94 was complete the study guide for Friday's test. So this is a study guide. I want you to ask Abby if you have that sheet of paper, and if you don't, text me, let me know so that I can get a copy of it to you for you to do. Let me see if I just have a copy of it right here so that you can see at least what it looks like. Looks like this. Right up at the top of it, it says Study Guide for Chapter 12 Test. And this is what it looks like. It has the first 3 sections are you writing out what all those identities are. Then it has you saying write the Pythagorean triples. So let me tell you what those are right now, because we didn't really do that much. The Pythagorean, the PT triples. Those are the sides of the triangles that we should automatically know without having to do the Pythagorean theorem. It just like cuts down the work for you. You don't have to memorize these for the test, but if you do, it makes your life easier. So 3, 4, 5 is one of the triples, and we've used that one a lot. Obviously, the biggest number always has to be the hypotenuse. But if you take 3 squared plus 4 squared, that's equal to 5 squared. Another one is 5, 12, 13. I think that one has come up a lot in those questions as well. 7, 24, 25 is the third one Miss Tompkins wanted you to remember, or if you want to. And then the last one is 8, 15, 17. Okay? Then the study guide just goes through and asks you a bunch of questions. It's really not that bad. The first page has practice questions asking you about sum and difference of two angles questions. So it says like which expression is equivalent to, and then it gives you this whole thing where it's sine, cosine plus cosine sine. So you just use your reference sheet to recognize that that is the difference, or the sine of the difference of two angles, the sine of the sum of two angles, and then write that out. That's the stuff that's on the front of the page, and some on the back. Also on the back you have identity proofs. So it gives you an equation, secant minus sine times tangent is equal to cosine. That's the one where you draw the line all the way down your page and then just manipulate the left, or the more complicated side of the equation, until it equals the right hand side of the equation. I'm going to say it one more time. When you're multiplying and dividing fractions, that's really easy because you get to cross things off. But if you're adding or subtracting, you need to have a common denominator. Common denominator is important. Also, remember to rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine before you even begin. Okay? And when you're taking this test, make sure that at the top of your paper you have written down all of the identities, so the Pythagorean identities that you need to know, and have a reference sheet with you. Tell Abby that when you're taking this test you need a reference sheet. You saw how quickly I pulled one up on the computer, so you could just have it on your screen or you could print it out for you to use. The second page, the front of the second page, has another proof, and then it has one of the questions that we just did with half angles, one with double angle, more double angles on the back, and that's it. The majority of this test is just being able to recognize which equation from your reference sheet that you're using. Okay? Call or text me if you have any questions. But I think that's all that's on this, and I will make another video for you on Monday. Alright, see you later.